Welcome back to Kevin's European Garage, and today I'm going to be changing the front brakes on my 2013 Porsche Cayenne. So I'm going to be changing the front brakes on my Cayenne, and today I decided to use the Powerstop Kit. And this is the front rotor, nice coated, slotted, and drilled. From brake pads, comes with the wear sensor, shims, and these are a couple tools that you're going to need. So I just picked up this brake, piston collapser tool from off of Amazon. It was like, this was a cheap one. It was like 25 bucks. I've used it once already on the other side of the car, and so far it's worked out pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with the purchase. It makes it a hell of a lot easier to collapse all the pistons all at the same time. I'm also going to be changing the front caliper bolts. I picked these brand new up from Porsche. And these are a couple of tools you're going to be needing. To take off the rotors off the hubs, you're going to need a T50. And for the caliper bolts, you're going to need a triple square, a 14 millimeter triple square. Torque wrench. The torque on the caliper bolts is 104 foot-pounds. And you're going to probably need a hammer, if not something much larger than this, to get off the rotor, depending on how bad it is, seized to the hub. And also some sort of ear tool with a abrasive disc on there to clean up the hub. And I like to put a little bit of anti-seize on there. Not much, just a little tiny bit of a coating, just enough so that it doesn't rust in the future, and you'll be able to get it off with ease next time you have to do brakes. And that's it, so let's get started. As you can see here, my rotors are pretty shot. They got a lot of grooves in here. Now the next thing you're gonna do is we're gonna take off the caliper and take off the brake wear sensor. To make this easier, we're just gonna rotate the whole thing towards us. All right, now so let's move the brake wear sensor. Kind of goes under the bleed cap over here, so let's take the bleed cap off first. Pry it up, this thing is stuck on there. There we go. All right, hear the click. We should pull it down through. All right, now it's time to take off the caliper bolts. 14 millimeter triple square. And I will be replacing these. Okay, so now we're going to remove the caliper off here. Luckily enough, it's a hard line that comes back over here, and right above it is the rubber line. And in between, you can look around the back and see if you can see it. Inside here, this thing can slide and move around back and forth. So we can actually be able to take this thing off, slide it, and twist it off to the side and get it away from the rotor without having to disconnect anything or move anything out of its way. But we're just going to use a bungee cord in order to hold it up in its place. So we're going to do that now. And before I do that too, I just kind of like to try to compress the pistons a little bit, just so it makes it a little bit easier to slide it off. This slid off fine. And see, like I said, you can just kind of twist it without any problems. I just grab the bungee cord on here and just put it right in the caliper bolt hole. Run there. And run the other one, so it's not leaning on there. All right, so now the next thing is to take off the rotor. And this is that T50. So before you do this, make sure you check the size of the new rotors that you ordered compared to the old ones. Make sure you get the right ones, because once you hammer this thing off, you're going to put dents on it and everything else. And that's the problem I had last time. I hammered it off, I put dents on it, and I had the wrong size. So that's why I ended up having to put these crap. These are the cheapest rotors I can get at the time, because I just need to put something on there, and they end up staying a lot longer than I initially anticipated. So now you just got to have to hammer these things off. And there's quite a bit of rust on here, so we're going to clean that off, and that's going to use that air tool with that abrasive disc on it. All right, I finally got it clean. It took a little while. The rust on the side just did not want to come off. It was a real pain. So finally got all the rust off. So next thing let's do, let's get everything out of this caliper. Got all the stuff that doesn't need to be in here, and that's just going to be the pads. And these little shims. Much easier to do these shims from the back side than trying to do them from the front side. And now we got this tool. Let's expand it a little bit to try to get it in here, because it's just easier to try to get in there close to being the full size. Don't expand it too much. Just get it in there. Center it on the middle piston. All right. And slowly push in. And this tool is nice. It easily compresses the pistons. All right. Okay, so let's prepare the caliper. Just get a little Scotch-Brite pad. Just kind of go through everything, just kind of clean off all the dust. Make sure these pins are nice and clean over here, because we're going to re-lube them. You see, there isn't any lube left on them at all. All right, so the amount of lube that they give you really isn't enough to do the job. So I always go and get a little extra. And so you're gonna lube up these pins with the extra stuff that you're gonna go buy. This is regular brake lube. You wanna cover it up. Not a whole lot, you just wanna cover it. You don't want a lot of excess on there or anything of that sort. And next we're going to put in the clips that we just took out. They go in one way and one way only, like such. You'll lock in. All right, and these things help keep the pads into place. All right, next is over to the pads. So here is the lube that they give you. Like I said, it's really not enough. So I just like to use their lube on the back. Of the pads, like it says to do it. And you're just gonna have to be very sparingly spreading this, so it really isn't much. You can see why that's why I get a little extra stuff and put it on the pad myself, on those pins. Get a little extra different kind. All right, so now we just put in the rear sensor. When the pad's up, goes in one way, like such. And this pad is going to be the inboard pad. All right, now over to the back to the caliper. Before I put the new rotor on, I put a little bit of anti-seize on here. Not much, just enough to cover it. Sometimes if you're not careful, some rust could build up behind the rotor and actually can make the rotor not sit flush against the hub. And you can actually get a vibration in your wheel from it. You can balance your tires over and over and over again, and the vibration will never go away. It's because your rotor is not sitting flat against your hub, and the tire is not sitting flat against the rotor, causing the vibration. So now I'm ready to put on the new rotor. This rotor didn't come with any oil on it or anything like that to keep it from rusting, because it's, it's plated. But I still give it a quick little shot with brake clean to make sure there's nothing floating around on it before I put it on. I'm not worried too much about the foot-pounds on this. I just make sure that it is nice and tight and hold the rotor down. I mean, all this thing is just really kind of hold the rotor in place for when you take off the wheel. It doesn't really do anything else other than that. So it's not terribly important about the torque. All right, so now the next thing is we're going to put the pads into the caliper. Let's there we go. All right, so now we can take off the bungee cord, flip the caliper back over, and put it on. Caliper's back on. And we have our new caliper bolts from Porsche. Let's get those started. And I'll finish them up using the impact very lightly. Go. Gotta get it started in there. There it goes. Clip. All right, that's the rear sensor. That's all set. We take our bungee cord out. You don't want to leave that in there. Now the next thing to do is to torque these down properly to 104 foot-pounds. All right, 104 foot-pounds. That is it. You now have a lovely new brake assembly in the front, new pads, new rotors. Coming up in another video, I will go over the bleeding procedure on this. This thing has not been bled yet, so it's time to change the fluid on here, and I'll go over the procedure. And that will be an upcoming video. And when I said I was kind of done, I was only kind of done, because if you don't use Powerstop, you can use whatever you want, but there's going to be a bedding procedure for the pads, and you got to follow the bedding procedure. So this is the bedding procedure for the Powerstop pads. 5 aggressive decelerations, 40 mile an hour down to 10. 5 moderate from 35 to 5, and drive slowly to cool down your brakes for about 5 minutes. So that is what it's needed to do in order to bed these in properly. If you don't, they won't have the braking performance that you're looking for. You got to bed your brakes in properly. Be sure to follow the manufacturer's specifications for whatever pads you decide to use, whether they're Powerstop, or the yellow stuff, green stuff, red stuff, whatever you want to use, or whoever's Hawk, or whoever pads you use. Make sure you follow their instructions, because it's really important that you do. So if you're all done, you got your car on the ground, don't forget to torque the wheels, 105 foot-pounds, and that's it. Proceed with your bedding procedure so you don't ruin the brakes. You don't want to ruin all that work you just did. So thanks for watching Kevin's European Garage. This was my little tutorial on how to change front brakes on my 2013 Porsche Cayenne. This should work for all the Cayennes that are similar to this. Pretty much probably even the Turbo 2 should be roughly about the same. I hope you like my video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I'll have some more videos coming out soon. And if you made it this far at the very end of this whole thing, don't forget to pump up your brakes before you start moving, because if you start moving, you hit your brakes, guess what? You got none. So slowly pump them up. What I do is I give them just a little bit until I get pedal pressure. Not too much, because if you got an old car, especially with some high mileage on it, if you push down too far, you can go too far past where your normal marks are, and you can actually blow a seal. So I just give short little pumps until you get pressure. Trust me, you don't want to blow a seal on there. So hopefully you made it all the way to the end past all that stuff I just said before this. So make sure you make it to the end. Just watch the whole video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.